Ugh. Cool. Okay. We are live. That's my cat. So let's start recording. Diary of a Tramp. Let's try that one more time. Okay. Mulligan. I'm good. Okay. Diary of a Trans Woman is supported by everyone over there, all the fine folks at patreon.com/Diary of a Trans Woman. If you would like to support us, we got cool rewards, we got cool benefits, got all sorts of cool stuff. So head on over there, become a backer, and pledge to stay, support the show. Hey everybody. So hey, this is Diary of a Trans Woman. I am EJ Kaiser, and it's just me today. Abby is sick. She has a sore throat, so for the first time ever, there's a Diary of the Trans Woman where Abby isn't here. It's gonna be weird, right? It's gonna be good weird. It's gonna be like Steve Zahn weird, like Crispin Glover weird. Just kind of it's kind of a real who's trans weird, like Patty Harrison weird. Ooh, I love her. If you're not a big Patty Harrison fan already, she is on YouTube. She's a trans comedian, and I love her so much. So, anyhow, what are you guys up to? I don't know. This is it's been a week. Abby stopped in, visited me over the weekend. We celebrated her birthday. She went to one of my roller derby games. Saw me use my butt to knock the crap out of a Minnesota men's team. That was awesome. We got to hang out. We got to hang out. We got to eat eggs and I don't know, just generally be friends. Abby got to sleep forever. So you'd think after that point she wouldn't be sick, but I'm gonna tease her forever. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. Next week I am gonna be going to the Lesbians Who Tech conference in New York City. I have never been to New York City. I have never been to I've been to one tech conference before. I've never been to one for lesbians. I went to RubyConf a couple of years ago, which was pretty neat. That was down in San Antonio. So I'm looking forward to being able to go there too. I don't know. It'll be cool. I'm getting an Airbnb. I'm staying with a bunch of other coworkers. The place I work is really cool. We have like 5 other trans people on staff. We hosted a trans code event earlier this year. We had a whole bunch of people. One of my coworkers is just like, I've never seen so many of my own people in the same room before. It was great. So yeah, technology is, I don't know, it's just one of those things I think that trans women to some extent flock to, because when we're sad and in our teenage years we just like dive into computers. It's like, maybe there can be a world of my own creation, and even though I'm sad about everything, well, maybe I can be on Second Life or something. That's how I coped. I went on Second Life and had got 6 sexy outfits, and actually my character at first was very short, and then I decided to make her taller, because I am very tall, and it's just like, I want to live life as a short person, and I was like, nah, I'll cave, fine, whatever, I'll be long and model-esque like everybody else. So Yeah, it's been pretty cool. I last week I went to a voice session. I've been going to take on voice therapy up at Northwestern. They have the Northwestern University Center for Audiology, Speech Learning, and Language, which I finally memorized. For a very long time, I couldn't remember what it's such a long name. And then the abbreviation is just Newcastle, and you put it into Google Maps, and Google Maps doesn't know what you're talking about. But yeah, I've been working on that, and I don't know. It's been real cool. I don't know. I've been playing. I took last year while I was playing derby. I broke my ankle, and I decided um while I was laid up, so to speak, while I was still in a walking boot, I decided to pick up a new hobby, and I decided to learn how to sing. Learn how to Took some voice lessons at the Old Town School for Folk Music down here, and so I know some of the stuff. I know about voice placement, and I know about chest voice versus head voice, and I know a lot of those things. We got to see the cool videos where they stuck like snaky cameras down the throats of people who were singing, and just see how their throats move and their vocal folds flapped, and oh, that was neat. That's a weird video, and if you want to search for that, I don't know what you would search, like for people singing with cameras in their throats. I don't know. But it's kind of a cool, weird video. Um, so yeah, I mean, I've been here for a few months now. And I don't know, maybe I'll just talk about me a little bit. Maybe can just get caught up with a little bit. Get to know your new co-host. You kind of know me already, but I mostly make fun of Abby. That's most of my shtick here. To give her crap and try to see if I can make her crack up. And I guess more frequently recently, the our game has been to find websites that nobody else can see while we're recording, and one of us catches it, is just like, oh, this is terrible audio material. um, but so yeah, I mean, as I was saying earlier, I don't know if I discussed this back in the first one I was on, the first one where Abby interviewed me, episode 63, I want to say, the one titled EJ, when she first interviewed me before she brought me on as a co-host. Um, that was so I started playing roller derby way back 6 years ago in 2011. And the way it started was that I went out to a women's roller derby game here in Chicago. And I was just watching it, and I was just, I got real emotional. It's like, I don't have the right parts for this to play this game. Um, yeah, it bummed me out. It was I was like, I wanted to do that, and I didn't totally understand what was going on. I was still very much in the closet. And a few months later, I joined a men's derby team, and I was just like, okay, well, this is obviously what it is. And a few years later, I found myself very, still it's just like, wow, I'm kind of good at roller derby now, but I'm still not happy, and I don't know what to do. And it took me a few months. I was like, no, I want to be playing women's roller derby. That's why I was crying the first time I'm seeing, strong women. I'm seeing, people who break all sorts of stereotypes, and, just kind of establish, a different version of femininity. Is just like that clears some things up for me. It's really hard to, kind of come to grips with, separating in your mind the idea that necessarily um that I don't know, that you it came hard to that you could be feminine and not be weak. Abby just sent me a link to the video for people singing with cameras in their throats, which I guess the name of the video is "Vocal Cords Up Close While Singing." So, thanks, Abby. That's why I got distracted. I'm like, "Who sent me a message?" And it's like I shouldn't be paying attention to this. I don't know, Abby. You're a genius. You're a consummate multitasker. That must be it. So, yeah. Anyhow, I started playing women's roller derby. I started in one local league, and that didn't go super great. Um, yeah, Abby tells me she is watching. She just can't talk right now, so her spirit is with us. I'm sure that any of the very rude things that I would be saying about her, she would be responding to in real time. But for now, I'll just make fun of her unadulterated. Um, yeah, I started playing women's derby a few years ago. I started playing at the a local Chicago team, and it didn't go so well. I ended up being one of the only people who didn't get drafted to my team. They have like you join and you're on a fresh meat team. You're on like a new skaters, selection. And then at the end of their session, they like draft people on the different teams. And I was the only one who didn't, even though I've been playing for 3 years, and some of the other people hadn't, to put it nicely. And I was just like, oh, and I got some explanations for why I was just like, oh well, you're just not a good culture fit with the team, or oh, we just just you need to work on your control, and it's just like ugh. That work on your control, that was code for, man, you're big and trans and scary, and we don't know what to do with you. So I stuck it out there for like a year, and at the I ended up making their C team, which cool. And then I ended up leaving because I was just like I felt like I was being gaslit so thoroughly. Still kept playing men's derby the whole time. And then joined another team across town, and they, long story short, they were so afraid of me they kicked me out. That was super unfun. Um, so that was upsetting. And I was just like, okay, so I guess I'm just gonna be a woman who plays men's derby. That's not dysphoric at all. So I did that for a little while. It was, and so what happened last summer, like shortly after I got kicked out of this, team two, um, was I posted a rant on Facebook where I was just like, and this was after I heard a friend of mine who messaged me and says just like, "Oh, they're telling me I'm too dangerous, and that they're that they I don't have enough control, or that people are scared of me." I was just like, "Okay, I'm realizing this is a microaggression that we haven't categorized yet. We haven't made public." So I posted this big rant. It's just like, "Hey, y'all, don't think that just because there are some kind of glowy stories on ESPNW about transgender people excelling in roller derby, etc., don't think that means that everything is good. There's still discrimination. There's still people are just I don't know. It's still there are still problems out there. The day after I posted this rant, which got shared by a bunch of my friends, who just was like, "Oh yeah, you've tapped into something," and people kind of say it's like, "Oh, it's a queer friendly sport," and it's just like, yeah. And then like the day after that, an article came out at ESPNW about trans skaters excelling in roller derby. Um, and one of my friends who was featured in the article like referenced my article and says just like, yeah, don't just like EJ said the other day, there's still problems, things that we still need to be better about this. And that that rant on Facebook led to a couple of cool things. It led to it led to I got to write some articles on the topic just about the ways that um, trans people get, or trans women in particular, get pushed out of roller derby. And B, it got me some connections where I started talking to people, and eventually, I managed to, even though I wasn't a member of a women's roller derby at the team at the time, I got a connections with people who were higher up in the Women's Flat Track Derby Association, and eventually that led to me becoming the chair of diversity and inclusion. I also joined a team in Fort Wayne, Indiana, toward the end of last year, because they were so enthusiastic about having me over there. I was just like, well, okay. I mean, I can drive over there, and if if things don't go well, it won't be too hard for me to just say, it's such a drive, and so I went to tryouts, and and they really liked me, and I found out that it could be good. Things could be good. I'm really happy over there. They are amazing. So now, I ended up, kind of a big old behemoth out there in Eastern Indiana. I get to advocate for diversity and inclusion, all that kind of fun stuff throughout the organization. They even flew me out to Manchester, England, earlier this year, so I could talk at the World Roller Derby Summit about diversity and inclusion. So I could serve on a panel and do all that fun stuff. I got to scrimmage against people from all over the world. Contrary to popular belief, they do not skate the other way in England. It's the same direction. Still lots of turning left, no matter where you play roller derby in the world. So, in any case, that's a kind of a complicated portrait of the sport. I know that there's a kind of a popular view. It's just like, yeah, a this is a queer friendly sport. This is where everyone can excel, and it still takes some work. And you shouldn't. I mean, if you're interested in getting into roller derby, I mean, it's wonderful. It's a great sport. I love it. It's so fun. But just know that you know being trans is the same there as it is anywhere else in the world. It comes with its own challenges, especially being a trans woman. Being a trans athlete is challenging in any context, because you'll have people saying, it's like, what about the level playing field? What kind of requirements should there be? What if any guy just said he wanted to play? And now in roller derby, there's another weird wrinkle to it, because the roller derby is the only sport in the world, as far as I know, where the power structure is entirely female. Where the biggest leagues in the world are women's leagues, and then there's men's leagues that are somewhat. There are fewer men's leagues. There are they get less attention. But recently there have been cis women who join men's teams. And it's been a little unusual. Usually when you have a trans person who joins a women's league, it's just like, oh, are they too big? Do they have an unfair advantage? Are they too strong? I actually had someone say that I was less female because of how tall I am. I'm 6'7", and that was the thing that kept me in the closet for the longest time. I was really self-conscious about my height. And so someone actually said, oh yeah, I mean, she's less of a woman because she was in men's derby and because she's so tall. And it's just like, well, I mean, thanks for hitting on my insecurities. So you get a lot of that, and you have to kind of, I don't know, the microaggressions pop up sometimes. You always feel, especially if you have that kind of trans feeling where it's like, oh, I'm just some, you know, big goofy oaf, and I'm just destructive, and I'm knocking everything around. And that's, I mean, that's a feeling that can be exacerbated there, especially because, roller derby is a sport where all kinds of body types are useful. Last night I was at my men's team. There was this, this small lady who was at my practice, who was just like kicking my ass. The small ones, they do me the most concern. You can't see what's going on down there. When you're way up where I am, you can't see what's going on. They're kind of zip zooming around you. So I mean, there's benefit to whatever your body looks like in roller derby. But if you're trans, people will say, you have a unfair advantage, you're dangerous, we're afraid of you, things like that. It just gets really microaggressive. But in men's derby now, they have women who are more experienced. I mean, there's Men's Derby Association has a rule now that says you can't be on a women's and a men's charter at the same time. Um, and you can't play like sanctioned ranked roller derby for both women's and men's at the same time, which is a little frustrating for me. And like they didn't make the rule to take care of trans people. They made the rule to stop men's teams. I think so that they made the rule to stop men's teams from bringing in ringers from women's leagues. Which isn't that a weird concept? In sports that like a men's team might say it's just like, oh, we're not good enough. We need to bring in some women. That's so cool. But I guess it's kind of a problem to have, a good problem to have. I don't know. I mean, I kind of at this point in my life, I keep on playing men's derby, and I mean, I love my team there. I came up with them. They've accepted me, and dealt with me through all phases of my transition, and it's great playing men's. And at the same time, I mean, I love playing women's. It's so affirming and so much better. And I can't go to Fort Wayne. It's a 3-hour drive each way, so it's a 6-hour round trip drive. Hey, I just did basic math for you. You're welcome. But no, it's a 6-hour round trip drive to get to and from Fort Wayne. I try to make it up there, a few times a month. I can't make it to twice a week practices and games and all the other stuff. Like that's a little much for me, a little heavy on the gas bill, on the gas tank, whatever. A little bit too much driving for me. But yeah, I kind of try to balance the two of them out. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be able to do both, and I'm hoping to be able to keep it up for a long time. Being able to do a lot in the community, be able to, I don't know. I mean, especially what we've been doing in diversity and inclusion, as we've kind of said, we want for roller derby to be as inclusive and empowering to all sorts of marginalized identities as it has been to the population it serves so far. We want to be able to expand it and want for people from who are feeling disempowered from all walks of life to have this as an outlet to be there for them if they want it. And it's tough. I mean, roller derby exists in a world that's imperfect. It exists in a world that is, I don't know. I mean, there's cis normativities everywhere. You know, there are power structures that are embedded in the rest of the world that don't go away just because you're playing roller sports. So, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, if you ever get a chance to go out and see a game, I recommend it. It's uh it's an awful lot of fun. Wherever you might be, there's probably a WFTDA team somewhere near you, if not two, if not three. I don't know. I mean, here in Chicago, we got the Windy City Rollers, Chicago outfit, the DuPage Derby Dames is Chicago Blues Brothers, my team. There's the Roar 88, Chicago Red Hots. There's South Shore Roller Girls. There's, you know, um, all sorts of teams. That's just, in the Chicago metropolitan area. There's juniors teams. There's, different rules. There's the Midwest All Stars. They played one by old school rules a few weeks ago, which was interesting. And that's just, in Chicago. I mean, I know it's wherever you go, you're gonna be able to find something new. I just watched The Tick on Amazon, the uh the new version of it, and in the second episode, one of the characters just happens to be at a Gotham Girls roller derby practice in New York, and I was just like, I know them, I know that person. It was really cool. It was the first time I have ever seen roller derby on TV where I didn't immediately like cringe and awkwardness. Like, oh, that's how you want to represent our sport. Cool. So I don't know. That's just a primer, I guess, on the trans experience in roller derby. It's a lot of fun. I like it quite a bit. Anyhow, I guess those are your EJ facts for the week. The best kind of facts. So shit. Let's do some news, yo. So, Amy Siskind, y'all. Amy Siskind, who is famous for I forget what her job is. She's a founder or president or something of something very political sounding. If she hasn't blocked me on Twitter yet. She's the president and co-founder of the New Agenda, advocate for women's LGBTQ rights, equality, women behind the weekly list, which is a list that comes out every week, says just like, oh, well, people who are experts on fascism recommend that you keep a list of the subtle things changing around you. So here's this week. Yeah, experts in authoritarianism advise to keep a list of things subtly changing around you so you'll remember here's week whatever. I mean, she's up to week 41 and she posts this on Facebook every week. So if you are in those circles, you might have seen that shared around. I certainly have seen that a lot. And she posted something recently where she used the term transgenders instead of, you can say lots of things. You can say trans folks, you can say trans people, use the same number of characters. But she said transgenders, which is, it's kind of, I don't know, it feels like a weird thing to have to explain to somebody. That's just like, that's not what we're called. It's like when, how people, it's just like compared to saying someone who said colored people instead of people of color. It's like, no, you sound racist. You sound, let's go back. So transgender is an adjective, y'all. Please don't use that. So the lovely Shakina Nafak, my favorite, who is she is in the main cast of the Hulu show Difficult People as Lola, the waitress, the transgender waitress who is the trans truther, who the third season is out now. She wasn't in this week's episode. I was very sad. But she's my favorite, and I rush to watch this show every week just so I can see what kind of sick burns she's laying down on the cisgender monsters. So Shakina Nafak sent a really nice tweet in reply. She said, Amy Siskind, I love you and I'm so grateful for your work, but please don't use, quote, transgenders, unquote. Transgender, trans people, trans folk, thumbs up emoji. Real, like the nicest possible reprimand to Amy Siskind, someone who's doing important work. And Amy Siskind replies with, I abhor hypocritical. Find something else to focus on this Friday night of breaking news and get off my feed. So, okay. Couple things. I mean, Shakina Nafak, you know, I mean, in my mind, she's a respected trans activist. She's done some great work. She's done some, she works with MTF musicals up in New York, done a lot in the theater. I mean, now she's on a TV show. She's gotten press in the last few years. She's just wonderful. I love her. In the nicest possible way, just kind of a gentle reference. It's just like, I love you, and I'm so. She started it with, "I love you." I love you and I'm so grateful for your work, but and just like asking to like use the correct terminology. And Amy Siskind, who's, and this is granted the night where the hurricane was hitting in Houston, and president was pardoning that sheriff whatever, and just announcing something about the trans-military ban is going into effect, like signing some orders so that I can move forward and all that nonsense, when all that stuff was just getting kind of shoved through on that night. And gently asking a noted progressive activist, hey, please just use our term. And she she ends up like blocking, she like, just condescending and blocking, which is just so infuriating, to just have people condescend when we're just, it's something real simple we're asking for, just call us by what you can just say, trans people, trans folks, whatever. It's the same number of characters on Twitter. It's not even an excuse. But she had to say transgenders. So she she was really digging in. She was arguing it's like, you can pass this along. If these geniuses took 1 second to check my list where 140 characters isn't an issue, it's correct. Instead, they swarm like the alt-right gangs of bullies that harass me constantly, and they will be treated the same for acting same. End. So, so first of all, like we said, trans people, same number of same number of characters. Trans folks, you can pull off that. Even fewer if you spell folks with an X, as you can see sometimes on social media. But no, she's saying it's just like, no, I mean, it's correct. And you don't like, I mean, when would you, I struggle to think of a better example, but like, if you are, why would you say it's just like, oh, I don't have enough characters for this, so I might as well just use something offensive, or even if you don't know that's offensive, I might as well just use this. If you can just say like, all she had to say was noted, or I hear you, or something like that, that's all you got to say. It's not, we're not like holding you up to the fire. I mean, it was a really polite rejoinder. And then she compares trans people to alt-right gangs of bullies that harass her. Come on, man. That's not cool. Ugh. It's, I don't know. It's super frustrating to like be compared. It's just like, okay, on the one hand, you have the alt-right who, racist bigots, white supremacist sympathizers, trolls, people who are just, agents of hate. And then you have someone who said, I love you and your work is so valuable, but hey, could you please not use this word? And yet we are the gangs of bullies, like the alt-right. I don't know. There is a petition up. I posted it on the Diary of a Trans Woman on the Facebook page. I think I retweeted on a Twitter account too. But yeah, it which one is it? I'm on TweetDeck here, and I've been trying to find the right column. It's a thoughtfully worded petition on change.org that says, "Dear Board of Directors," and this is addressed to the Board of Directors of the New Agenda, which is the paper that Amy Siskind, founded and is the president of. "Dear Board of Directors, this past weekend, Amy Siskind," sorry, I'm yawning. Okay, Dear Board of Directors, this past weekend, Amy Siskine published a tweet using the term transgenders to refer to people in the trans community, a term commonly regarded as a slur. She was gently asked to find another term by Shakina Nafak, a trans actress and activist. The desired outcome was that Amy would acknowledge the error and correct it. Instead, she told Shakina to get off her timeline and blocked her on Twitter. Moreover, when others joined the conversation, Amy indicated that the criticism was invalid and a waste of her time, and she blocked many people who escalated the issue by responding to other tweets in her timeline. Refusing to take the criticism in stride, she doubled down, refusing to her critics sarcastically as geniuses and likening their behavior to that of alt-right trolls. We find it troubling and shameful that this is the behavior of someone with a prominent platform in the name of an organization that claims to be a voice for all women. Additionally, someone who decries President Trump's tactics of demeaning his enemies and blocking communication with them should be expected, at the least, to choose to interact differently with her critics than the very authoritarian figures she claims to rebuke. We believe that the true enemies of the advancement of all women are not those at the top of the government making obvious policy changes affecting women's rights, but those taking on the role of allyship who, being in position to be trusted and depended on, make it abundantly clear their need to be correct is worth more than continuing to develop a coalition with the very people whose voices they claim to elevate. Amy Siskine has communicated to the trans community that she is unwilling to listen and is in fact willing to reproduce President Trump's authoritarian tactics in the service of silencing her critics. We urge you to insist on a public, sincere apology from Amy Siskine to Shakina Nafak and the many others who have lent their emotional resources to resolve this matter. If you don't, you risk positioning the new agenda as a trans-excluding feminist movement that will be held to account for claiming to be a voice for all women, which would be a travesty to all those who trust your organization to amplify their voices. So, yeah, I signed it. Amy posted her final tweet. None of you bothered to check my list or my record. On one tweet, I got it wrong. This is alt-right pack mentality. Do better. And then she also, like, someone criticized her, and she said, well, mind you, I'm president of the first women's org to have a trans woman as a panelist before it was an accepted thing, for which I was also called out. It's like, it's you can't be that kind of ally. You can't claim the mantle of ally. It's just like, look at all this cool stuff I've done. But then, like, when someone criticizes you or someone, asks you to do better in a real gentle way, like, this isn't even a complicated issue. You can't just, like, dig in and, like, make it so important that you're right and just, like, tell the trans community to do better. That, like, it's just like, no, you need to check my references for you. And it's like, up yours, dude. Up yours. Like, that's super condescending. Like, I just, why do you think we are going to, like, listen to, just take a cis person's word for it? All we're asking for is an apology. And that's something that I don't know why it's so difficult to get cis people to apologize to us. I do not know why cisgender celebrities, why people, just people who are, I don't know, who flub things, who say things, who, like, just say things that offend us, cannot apologize. Is she afraid that the TERFs are going to swoop in just as soon as she, if she says, hey, sorry, I screwed up, didn't even have to be a big deal. We weren't even asking for an apology the first time. We were just asking for, hey, could you just not use it? And then she blocked Shakina. It's like, it's not that hard, but it signals to me, at least, there must be some kind of, it feels like there's internalized transphobia there. It's like, if she is quick to compare, trans activists asking for something simple very politely as, being like the alt-right gangs or whatever, it seems to me like, I mean, it's the same thing where, like, TERFs compare trans women to MRAs. They call us MRAs. or things like that. Like people who are just like so convinced that there's something different about us as women, you know, that they have internalized that we are, you know, that we are secretly men underneath or whatever, that we're going to be, you know, mean and hard to get along with or whatever. And, you know, I mean, sure, we spend a lot of our lives having that softness and that tenderness beaten out of us, sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively. Sure, we have a lot of pain that we carry that, you know, doesn't always make us, but I mean, come on, to like that. I don't know. It's so frustrating to me. Um, so I'm going to talk about something a little happier. Um, and I'm not just talking about my very tiny cat who has given me so many headbutts directly on my hand right now, making it a little bit difficult to open up this article, but not. I'm a multitasker. I can use one finger to pet her and use the other two fingers to scroll down. Uh, Illinois Governor Rauner signs transgender birth certificate bill. So a little backstory. I'm from Illinois. I'm Illinois is traditionally a very blue state. Um, Historically, Illinois, you know, Chicago, where I live, is famous for the Democrat machine through the second half of the 20th century, where just, you know, we had powerful Democrats, you know, the Mayor Daley machine, both Mayors Daley. We had two of them. Just like kind of, I mean, it's like we're just like I kind of sometimes say that I could never move out of Chicago because I'm like in this protective crust of democratic corruption where it's like they're so embedded into the political system here, that, you know, I feel like I'm safe from any kind of political movements that might seek to disenfranchise me. So I'm just like just kind of stay warm in my Illinois blanket. Um, so we had a we had a run, um, where I think 4 out of 8 governors of Illinois, 4 out of 8 consecutive governors ended up being sent to federal prison for a felony, including, most recently, if you remember, Rod Blagojevich, who got sent to jail for trying to sell, Barack Obama's Senate seat after he became president. And so we had like after Rod Blagojevich got convicted, Deputy Governor Pat Quinn became governor, and he was, I mean, seemed like an altogether decent guy and not like a super strong politician. So he ended up, you know, getting real bad approval ratings, and just things went south. And we, in 2014, elected a Republican governor for the first time in a little, I think the first time since I want to say 2002. Yeah, 2002. That was the end of the term for George Ryan, who also went to prison. So we got Bruce Rauner, who's this millionaire and who like he was holding up the state budget for 2 years, and like our credit score for the credit rating for the state went down the tubes. And he was just like, it was like, well, I want to, you know, eliminate public sector unions, and I won't sign the budget until we do that. And then the Democrats overrode his veto. But it's like we generally don't like him too much. He hasn't done a lot, and then all of a sudden he's like done a whole bunch of stuff in rapid succession that seems like it's like, oh, you have signed an altogether decent bill, good sir. And most recently, it's this one that it's a modernization of the Illinois Vital Records Act that protects transgender citizens. I'll read it. Illinois Governor Bruce Rauner has signed legislation that will modernize Illinois law, allowing transgender and intersex individuals to change the gender marker on their birth certificate without undergoing gender reassignment surgery. The Republicans signed House Bill 1785 on Friday without comment. The bill allows birth certificate changes as long as the individual identifies as transgender and is under a doctor's care. Illinois now joins 14 additional states, the District of Columbia, and the federal government in ensuring this access. Um, so, yeah, State Representative Greg Harris and State House Senator Toy Hutchinson, cool, were the chief sponsors of the bill. I'm proud to be part of a team in Illinois that is expanding equality and fairness for all our citizens, especially in a time when so many are trying to roll back legal protections and foster intolerance and hate. It is important that we stand together, said Harris. Transgender and intersex persons in Illinois deserve to live their lives with dignity and safety consistent with their gender identity, commented Hutchinson. It is an honor to have worked with so many others to pass this legislation, especially as we see other states and the White House attempt to enshrine discrimination based on gender identity into law. Equality Illinois and ACLU of Illinois celebrated the signing. Then they have like big quotes from both of those organizations. So, I mean, obviously, this is great. I personally just a couple of years ago, no, earlier this year, even late last year and early this year. So late last year, Illinois has there's a organization where they camp out like the last Friday every month. They camp out in the city government building downstairs, I think the Daily Center downtown. And it's like a transformative justice law project name change mobilization, I think it is. And if you go down there, they will just have people who will walk you through every step of the way and like walk you to different desks you need to go to, so you can get your driver's license change, you can get your social security card. I mean, you can get the court order, like that. So that's the first thing you get the court order. You schedule a court date, and then you have to have your name. They have to publish it in the law bulletin for a few months. They get the doctor's letter, so you can change the marker on your driver's license, and you go through all those steps. That's cool. And then the social security card, I got to go to the social security office, get that done. Passport, I was trying to get that done before the inauguration, and it got sent back to me, and thankfully nothing has changed there, and I got that in under the wire, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I had all those, and I was just like, did I change my birth certificate? And I was sitting there, I was wondering. I mean, the law was kind of vague, and I was just like, can I game this? Can I say that, well, since I was playing roller derby as a transgender individual, and I had I had surgery on my ankle because I was playing roller derby as transgender, could that count as qualifying surgery? It probably could not, but I'm happy that I'm going to be able to check off that last bit of documentation anyway. I'm going to have to find some time to figure out what I'm doing. Maybe I can contact the TJLP name change things and see if they, maybe I'll go down that next Friday. I guess it got passed on the last Friday of the month, so I'm gonna get a full month before I can go back there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to I don't know. I mean, it's been real cool to start to work on wiping my dead name from the face of the earth. It's been nice. I think I might be one of the only people who deals with a derby dead name. Like, we have derby names in roller derby, and we came up with our own aliases, and it's fun and cool, and it's just stuff they call you. I mean, my derby name is just Gloom, and which was a reference to the phenomenon and song June Gloom, which is I guess it's some light cloudiness in Southern California in June that happens, and there was a song about it, and I just went with Gloom. With June Gloom for a while. I just went with Gloom. But I had a previous derby name when I was playing just men's derby. Um, I've had people who like come up to me and refer to me by it. And I'm just like, wow, I don't know. I think I only know one other person who like had a derby name while they were male and then transitioned, like someone, a friend of mine who was a coach for many years and transitioned and deals with the same thing. But it's real weird and real frustrating. Like it's like I don't know. It's switching from one chosen name to another chosen name that it's it feels like a weird, different, bizarre kind of dead naming. It feels like it's just like, oh, it should be less of a big deal because you chose both of them. It's just like, well, I don't know. I mean, that was a total straw man person that I came up with there. I don't know if that person actually exists, but it was just like, man, it's just like, so it's real affirming to just like erase it from from existence altogether. Um, let's see, we got a few minutes left. I think I'm going to talk about the other cool news this week. Which this is from Vice. One of the longest running trans porn sites in the world has renamed itself, shedding the she-male term. Um, they're removing stigmatizing language such as tranny and she-male from its lexicon. Groovy, which is over 20 years old and started the Transgender Erotica Awards, changed the name of its flagship site in August, shifting from shemale.yum.com to groovygirls.com. So, first of all, shemale yum. Oh boy. I mean, Groovy Girls isn't. Why does it have to sound so gross? I don't know. Jelena Vermillion, who Vice previously interviewed in his work with Groovy, mentioned how she has at times felt uncomfortable about slurs used in the porn world. If I'm talking about me as an individual, I don't personally like the word tranny or shemale or other words used against trans folks. As far as I know, they're used in the industry. It's kind of a necessary evil because it's in the infrastructure, how things have been set up over time by people in power. White cis men who started the porn industry, people currently running the industry. Ideally, I prefer those terms not to be used. I wish we lived in a culture where we could just Google trans woman, trans girl, and other clinical correct terms instead of just fantasized slurs. Um, and so I don't know. They interviewed the marketing and editorial director. Um, I guess and we were just talking about this the other week. We were talking about the X Hamster's offer to pick up Sensate. And it's just like, yeah, well, maybe you don't want to use Gmail. I'm hoping that Groovy doing this, the I guess biggest name in biggest name in transgender porn. I hope that makes a difference. I just looked it up on X Hamster again, and it says that they still have shemales. It's rather unfortunate. So where did I put it? They said, how was the decision made to change the name? And it's like, well, the site came out in 1997, and the landscape has been changing. They said it wasn't meant to offend anyone, but I think particularly in porn that's focused on identity, be a complicated issue. It's something we've been talking about for a while. It's been coming up over and over and over again. We couldn't do that switch over till we found something that made sense. It's like we felt we could make a statement by just saying Groovy Girl. We don't use any identifiers or anything close to that. It's just Groovy Girl. Um, it's like we do use T Girl, which seems to have more social acceptance. We haven't used those offensive identifiers in marketing or SEO for a while now, which is cool. T Girl still seems a little objectifying, but I mean, I guess. Okay, fine. Um, I guess a little it's a little bit objectifying, but I guess porn is a little bit about objectification. It's less outright insulting. I mean, just yeah, okay. Okay. I can handle T girl. It's just like There are people out there who go looking for trans porn because they are fetishizing trans women and might not even know the proper terms that are socially acceptable today. What about those people? And I said, right. So what I'm in the process of doing on my end is about education. I'd like to have more education so we don't shame people who are using those terms to get to us, however they get to us. But I want to be able to put something on our site that explains if they got here using those terms. If you're looking for this kind of content, which you think you are, why don't you visit these sites? Then we list our sites. I think that part of the problem is people are ignorant in using these terms. If we shame them as part of our process, it might turn people off from it. My idea is that we sort of limit the shame and stigma around it, and how we handle these words will hopefully be it. That's going to come out in the next couple of months. That's awesome. And I think that I'm pretty sure that that's probably a lot of. I don't know. I don't want to underestimate the magnitude of a change like this. The magnitude of, for something that is, I mean, now, I mean, when I was growing up, I didn't know a trans woman until, you know, I was in my late 20s. I'd never met one before as far as I knew. Certainly not an open one, so I didn't really have a frame of reference. Um, so I get the impression, I mean, my exposure to it, as I assume was a lot of other, people from my era. I mean, you saw the Maury Povich and Jerry Springer and all that, and it's just, it was kind of a '90s talk show spectacle, and it's still kind of, objectifying and slurry in pornography, and I think, I mean, all sorts of individuals go watch porn. All sorts of individuals have, I mean, there are plenty of dudes who enjoy, who have fetishized trans women, whatever. And I'm sure like this language is just being positioned as acceptable for them just because it's there. And so for a organization like Groovy to um, kind of take a stand there and just rebrand their site and get rid of the slurs. I don't want to underestimate that. I think that will actually have, just a big change in how people treat us. I think this is like, if you think about the number, like the kinds of things that could lead the I don't know, the bigots at large to start treating us as people. Um I don't know. I think that might start building some bridges. So good on them. I know it's not going to get a whole lot of press because no one likes to talk about porn, but I think it's just a really super important story, especially because we're so frequently sexualized. Um, there's a cool article in here that like linked at the bottom of that article. It says this trans porn site wants to show you real sex, not she-male stereotypes. And they interviewed the creator behind new Montreal-based uh, TS Naturals XXX, um, where as it says TS Naturals XXX has features trans women and non-binary people who have not undergone major surgery, a requirement implemented to counter what they say are unrealistic standards propagated by most trans porn offerings. The point is not to condemn surgery, but rather to normalize a wider range of natural trans and non-binary bodies, promote positive body image, and fight against the industry's fetishization of trans women, non-binary people. Um, yeah, they said. They said anything involving big boobs or facial reconstruction, I don't allow. A lot of people around the industry feel that girls have to go through surgery, and the reality is most trans girls, I would say, are relatively comfortable just taking their hormones and going through a couple of minor surgeries and living their lives. Feel in some sense it sets an unrealistic bar for what transition is. It's a lot of impact. I haven't. This is a real interesting interview, and I'm not gonna read the whole thing. I think I will add it to our buffer, so you can. I'll add it onto our social media so you can check it out. Um, I don't know. Maybe we can talk about it a little bit more next week. But yeah, I don't know. I think that the fetishization of trans women in porn has a underrated influence on how we're treated in society. And I think that every time we've had, there's probably plenty of trolls who just want to, see us as someone to try to, I don't know, traumatize or whatever. Try to tell you someone, someone just Facebook messaged me the other week and just sent me a picture of a swastika. I was just like, okay, cool. I had posted something on Facebook that went like mini viral, but I was just like, hey, maybe don't post pictures of swastikas on Facebook, even if you have them X'd out. So that's really triggering for a lot of people. And someone just sent me a picture just because they were being a smartass. And so I decided to get right back at him and send him a bunch of pictures of genital reassignment surgery. So gender confirmation surgery, whatever you want to call it, of bottom surgery. And then I blocked him. So I sent him all those pictures, just like, here, enjoy, dude. Sending me something that you think I want to hear. Well, how about I send you something that I don't think you want to see? Because it's a I am person is just like, it's a wonderful thing. But how did I even get on that? I don't know. So anyhow, this looks like a real interesting thing. I'll get this posted. Take a look at it. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. I think it's real exciting to try to get rid of some of those stereotypes, some of the people who objectify us and the haters. The haters. All right. I guess that's about it for this week. Hey, I got through an entire episode all by myself. Go me. We don't even need Abby anymore. Oh, I keep on promising I'm going to do my Abby impression to Abby. It's like, oh, no, I don't have it right now. It's just like, I'll try to figure out one to do my research for. I'm not much of an impressionist. Okay, here we go. My cat is really going to town on my hand right now. Jealous. So anyhow, is this? Come on. It's the outro music. Diary of a Trans Woman. We do it every week. Music by Same Sex Mary. I'm GMX500 on Twitter. Trans Diary Show. Yeah, I probably did that too early, but yeah. Trans Diary Show on Twitter. I'm GMX500. You can find Abby Geek on Twitter. You can all that patreon.com/Diary of a Trans Woman. Facebook Diary of a Trans Woman. Whatever. Man, I was crushing it until I hit that music cue too early. I got so far through the episode without goofing it. Yeah. Yeah, Abby. Fine. Bring you back to the music cues next week. Okay. Yeah, music by Same Sex Mary. We are here every week, me and Abbers. And next week, probably more of a conversation. It'll be fun. I'm gonna play the outro music again, because deal with it. Deal with it. Goodbye. See my cat? It's a cute cat. All right, bye, guys. Thanks, y'all. I'm gonna have one viewer. It's probably Abby. Ugh. Gross. Okay. I'm done. Bye.